You know, when you're at work and you have a kind of new person come in and you don't really get on with them initially, you think they're a bit of a D-head. But then after a while, you get to know each other and you think, oh, actually, you're all right. I think that's what's going on at Newcastle. Hello team, welcome back to Newcastle Fans TV. Now, as always, like, subscribe, high five, comment, subscribe, join, like, follow, all of that stuff. It's all good. And thank you very much for tuning in once again. Now, Eddie Howe's had his pre-match presser this morning, so quick soundbite of the kind of minor stories. Kraft nursing a bit of a knock, which is why he didn't go on international duty with Sweden. Willock has been training, Wilson has not, and is set to miss the game at Molineux on Sunday. Very disappointing to many, I'm sure. Frustrating, certainly, when it comes to Callum Wilson's fitness. Now, yesterday, Mark Douglas in the Eye was reporting that all seemed well between Eddie Howe and Paul Mitchell now. They're working together and looking ahead and planning for the next two transfer windows. And, you know, and it seemed like finally focus could be back on the pitch and moving forward, and the positivity aura around the club was back. Eddie Howe, with his presser today, as I mentioned, was, of course, asked about the interview Paul Mitchell gave a couple of weeks ago and, you know, how that relationship has developed. Mitchell was relatively scathing, wasn't he, about the previous sort of regime, Ashworth and Amanda Murdad, I'm guessing, too. Eddie Howe defended his transfer record at Newcastle, and rightly so. They brought in some fantastic signings. Even, you know, pre-Dan Ashworth, when bringing in Bruno Trippier, Byrne, all sort of still first-team squad members and regulars on the whole. Obviously, also Target and Chris Wood were brought in, who did a job at the time. Would I have made the Target move permanent? No, I'd said that at the time, but, you know, it is what it is. Still a capable player. Look, we know the disappointment that followed since Mitchell's arrival, and was very kind of passive when it came to accepting any blame. But many journalists feel, who were there that day, having spoken to a couple of them, came away from that interview with Mitchell feeling quite positive. A lot of what was kind of said and written can be taken out of context quite easily. But on the whole, it was relatively positive in a way, and kind of moving forward, setting the stall out and going on. You know, no more PSR issues and no more transfer incoming issues either. Because it wouldn't have been an easy situation to walk into. Would have been left in a mess, having to sell Anderson and Minter is not ideal at all. They didn't want to sell Anderson. Chris Waff and George Culkin put a piece out this morning regarding Vlachodimos, the most expensive goalkeeper Newcastle have ever bought, and will never play. It just highlights just what an absolute sham PSR is. Howe obviously fired back towards Mitchell's interview. They haven't spoken over the international break, which it may be concerning to some. Obviously, training still goes on during the international break, and obviously the vast majority of the squad are still in and around, and you know, looking ahead to Wolverhampton on Sunday. But obviously, many see international breaks as a kind of ideal planning time to look to plan for the future and get kind of some targets to watch and scout and so on and so forth. But that obviously hasn't happened. Mitchell said his communication with Howe was regular, whether it be in person or over the phone or on Messenger, whatever. But Howe is kind of, what he said today is kind of disputing that. I still think it's very early days between the two of them. They need to kind of thrash it out and get this sorted, because it's not healthy. And it is a mild concern. Obviously, journalists can interpret this in very different ways. Some want to sensationalise, others want to kind of tone it down, and neither are wrong. It's just kind of what side of the coin you flip, really. Either way, it's concerning, because whatever happens with these kind of things and internal politics, the fall guy and the common denominator is always the same, and it's the manager. So it's been a long kind of, without wanting to go back and retracing old steps, which we've covered monotonously over the summer in regards to Howe in England, which doesn't look set to happen anytime soon, thankfully, and the transfer window saga, I suppose. It is a bit concerning, considering all of these kind of slick operators aren't gelling at the moment, and it's kind of the same with things on the pitch. You can buy a player, does he fit into that mould? No. Howe wasn't consulted. It's widely received now that Howe wasn't consulted on Paul Mitchell's arrival. And could it be the same in the upstairs department of the club as well? Is there a personality clash? Who knows? It is mildly concerning, but nonetheless, they need to put it behind them and start to work together. And I would like to think they could, because these are guys two English guys at the top of their games. Fantastic appointments, both of them, on their own individual merits. And for the sake and sanctity of Newcastle United, there has to be some kind of common ground reached and working together. Otherwise, like I said, the fall guy won't be Paul Mitchell. It won't be Darren Eales. It won't be any of the other people that work in the upper echelons of the club. The fall guy is always the same, and that is Eddie Howe. It's the manager. And we don't want to lose Eddie Howe. Of course we don't. He's been fantastic. No Newcastle fan in their right mind would want to get rid of Eddie Howe at the moment. We've seen he's already performing miracles already. We've played horrendously so far this season, and we've still come away with 7 points, which is a fantastic return. Look, we go into this game at Wolves needing the win. And it's about time we got the win at Wolves. I've said in a couple of videos this week, and I'll try and avoid saying the same, but I'm going to say it, spoiler alert, when I do the drive down preview Sunday morning as well, Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon. It's a game that's frustrated us over the past few years, and it's about time we won at Molineux. So again, that's Eddie Howe's department, and he's the fall guy. Look, they need to get their heads together. They need to get in a room, thrash it all out, and move on and move forward, which hopefully they can do. Look, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Was bringing in Paul Mitchell a bad move for Newcastle? Would you be bothered if Eddie Howe was to leave? I know I certainly would, but maybe not everyone thinks the same. So do please get your comments in. Plenty more coming up over the weekend, of course. There are, I think there's 4 of us at Molineux on Sunday for that game against Wolves. So if you're there, do please come and say hello. But until then, stay tuned to Newcastle Fans TV.